For years, I lived in a small, quiet house on the very edge of town. People always said it was too isolated, too lonely, too close to the old woods that seemed to whisper at night. But to me, the house never felt like that. It felt gently like a place that was simply waiting for someone to finally understand its silence. I first noticed something truly unusual during my second winter there. Every night, I'd sit alone in the living room with the lamp dimmed low, and the house would settle around me with these soft, rhythmic creaks. It wasn't unsettling at all. It was more like listening to a tired person stretching after a very long day. The walls never groaned loudly. The floors never shook. Everything was quiet, patient, and strangely comforting. But one night, the silence itself felt alive. I was reading a book, lost in its pages, when I heard a faint sound. It wasn't a voice, and it wasn't a knock. It was just a soft shift in the air, almost like something was leaning closer to listen in. I looked up, scanning the room. The shadows on the walls were completely still, yet the air felt warmer, as if someone had just stepped into the room with me. It wasn't a threatening feeling, it was just a presence. On a whim, I whispered into the stillness, "Is anyone there?" The lamp on the table flickered once, a gentle, deliberate pulse of light. A soft exhale of warm air brushed my cheek, even though all the windows were shut tight against the winter cold. I wasn't afraid. In that moment, for some unexplainable reason, I felt completely understood. Over the next few weeks, this strange communication continued. The house began responding to me, not with words, but with these small, quiet gestures that seemed tuned to my own emotions. When I felt sad, the lights would dim to a warmer, softer glow. When I was exhausted after a long day at work, the hallway seemed to shrink, as if it was guiding me gently toward my bedroom. One night I broke down and cried, and the floorboards right near my bed creaked softly. A sound so specific it was as though someone had knelt down right beside me, offering comfort in the only way they knew how. The house never scared me. It only ever comforted me. But the night I will truly never, ever forget came in the early spring. I'd returned home late, feeling completely drained and heavy-hearted. I didn't even bother to turn on any lights. I just stood in the entryway, letting the darkness wrap around me like a heavy blanket. And after a moment, the house breathed. A warm breeze, which was impossible indoors, swept past me, carrying the faint, familiar scent of pine wood and old dust. Then, slowly, the lights down the hall began to brighten, one by one, forming a gentle, illuminated path. Without even thinking, Primera follow d'Italiano. The lights led me to the small guest room, a space I rarely ever used. As I stepped through the doorway, the lamp on the bedside table flicked on all by itself, casting a soft, welcoming glow across the room. I watched, mesmerized, as the bed covers shifted, pressing down lightly in one spot, as though an invisible figure had just sat down on the edge, waiting patiently for me. I stood frozen, but not in fear. It felt like coming home to someone who had missed me terribly. Then, a whisper, not quite a sound. Not quite. My own imagination floated through the air. Rest, air. Air, I'll stay. I walked over and lay down on the bed, and the room warmed instantly, as if the house itself was wrapping me in a protective embrace. For the first time in months, I fell asleep without a single worry in my mind. When I woke, morning sunlight was streaming through the window, filling the room with light. The house was still, quiet, peaceful, but I knew, with absolute certainty, that it had watched over me all night long. Since that day, the house has continued to listen. It seems to know exactly when I need warmth, when I need silence, and when I just need a little company. And sometimes, late at night, when the world outside feels heavy and overwhelming, I'll feel a gentle, familiar pressure on the edge of my bed. The house, in its own quiet way, reminding me that I'm not alone. Not here.